Okay, this is your Quadratics Part 1 study guide. I'm just going to do a video of it, your Quadratics Part 1. Okay, if you'll notice, you are adding like terms with the first one. So 5x squared and negative 3x squared are 2x squared. Negative 7 and positive 10 is positive 3x. Positive 9, negative 14 is negative 5. When you subtract, remember you want to change the sign of everything that's inside that parentheses. So that 5x becomes negative 5x, the negative 9 becomes positive. Then you add like terms. 3x squared cannot be added with 5x because they are not like terms. So I write 3x squared down, then I put negative 5x, and then negative 5 and positive 8 are positive 3. Now, when multiplying, that's number 3, when multiplying a monomial times a polynomial, you want to multiply the numbers but add the exponents on the variables. So 2 times 3 is 6, x times x is x squared. You have a y squared, keep it. 2 times negative 3 is negative 6, x times x is x squared, and then 2 times 4 is 8, and keep the x. Remember, your variables don't fly away, they stay. All right, and this one, using the FOIL method, I want to do the first term times the first term, so that gives me 8x squared. The outer terms, 2x times 6 gives me positive 12x. Then the inside terms, negative 3 and positive 4 give me negative 12x. And then the last terms, negative 3 times 6 is negative 18. Then I add like terms. The 2 in the middle happen to cancel out here. That doesn't happen often. But that gives me 8x squared minus 18. Then I do the same thing on this one. X times 2x, 2x squared, x times 1x. Negative 5 times 2x is negative 10x, and negative 5 times 1 is negative 5. Add your like terms, and you get that. All right, now I'm kind of trying to go a little quicker, so I hope I don't go too fast for you, but this says to factor completely. You want to look at your numbers and see what number you can pull out. Between 3 and 9, I can pull 3. Since there is a variable in both terms, I can pull out the lowest exponent between those two variables. So that's x. So I pull out 3x. And when I divide by 3x, when I divide each one of these by 3x, I get x here and I get 3 here. I do the same thing here. I'm going to pull out the biggest number that I can that divides evenly into both the numbers, and that would be 5. I don't pull a variable this time because I don't have a variable with the 25. So I just divide each term through by 5. That gives me x squared minus 5. All right, this one, let's go down through here. I've got my work off to the side. I hope you can follow it. All right, when factoring this, you do the little x. You'll put 64 on the top one. I didn't do this one because I can do it in my head, so I didn't. You'll put 64 on the top, and I can do the others in my head too for that matter. But you put 64 on the top, 16 on the bottom, and that gives you b plus 8, b plus 8. Or you can write it with a little 2 if you want to. You can write it as b plus 8 in parentheses squared. Okay, then I did the next one the same way. Here is the x method with it. I put negative 24 up top, negative 6 on the bottom. And I look at this subtraction sign and I think, what factors of 24 or what numbers that multiply to be 24 also subtract to be 4? And that is 6 and 2. After I do that, then I put in my positive and my negative. So I want them to add to be negative 4, so the 6 has to be negative. And that's how we get this. I do the same thing here. Here's the x with that one. And I may not explain each and every one of them, y'all, because I'm trying to go through quickly, and there's 30-something problems here. But factors of 40 that add to be 13, negative 8, and negative 5. Come down, do the same thing on this one. Factors of negative 56 that subtract to be 1 are 7 and 8. Then I look to make them add, and to make it be positive 1, the 7 has to be negative. Come down, this one has a GCF. Be careful about GCFs. Pull the 4 out. It makes it friendlier to do. And then it factors to be x minus 2, x plus 1. Let's move on. This one we have to call what I say in class is I say we rainbow it. So 2 times 5 is 10, put 11 on the bottom. The factors of 10 which add to be 11 are 10 and 1. And then because I multiply by that 2, I must divide by that 2. And that gives us 5 and 1/2. And remember, you pull this up, bottoms up. So x plus 5, 2x plus 1. Okay. I multiply 4 times 4, that gives me 16. 17's in the bottom. The two factors of 16 that add to be 17 are 16 and 1. I make them both negative. That's the only way I'll get a positive 16 and add to be negative 17. Then, of course, I divide by the 4. Okay, that gives me x minus 4, 4x minus 1. I do the same process here. 3 times negative 6 is negative 18. And then I want them to subtract to be 7, so that's 9 and 2. The 9 is positive, the 2 is negative, and I divide by that 3, and that gives me that. Okay, let's move on. Up here, I have the same process, y'all. Same exact process, negative 12, negative 4. Those factors are negative 6 and 2. Divide by the 3, that gives me x minus 2, 3x plus 1. I do the same process here, same exact process. You can see the work right here. I do the same, on this one, I take out the GCF of 2 and do the same process. I rainbow it. I wrote that out over here. Okay, special products, remember we square root the first, square root the last, and go plus minus. So x plus 8, x minus 8. Same thing on this one, square root them both. That gives me 2x plus 5, 2x minus 5. This one had a GCF of 3. I pull it out, and then I square root both of them. X plus 4, x minus 4. This is prime because I have a plus sign. Cannot do that. This one is a perfect square trinomial. I didn't write the x earlier. I think y'all understand the x better. You would put 25 here. 10 here, factors of 25 that add to be 10 are 5 and 5, and that's how I get that. I do the same thing here, only I pull out the GCF. I put 9 on the top, negative 6 on the bottom, and that gives me 2 negative 3's as factors. All right. All right, now we are solving these now by factoring. It says that first one can be solved by just doing the square root method, moving this over. When you move it right, when you move 25 right, you go plus 25 plus 25. That gives me x squared equals 25, then I square root both sides. So that's positive 5 and negative 5. This one, I wrote the work right here. You pull the GCF of x out, and then you set, remember, we're setting everything equal to 0. But I showed you a shortcut in class and just showed you how to go straight to it. So I'll show you the work on this one. I didn't show the work on all these others because there's no need when you can do it in your head. All right. Now I did not write out all my x's because I think you can do that on your own. But we factored this and we got n plus 5, n plus 2 equals 0. And remember, the opposite of positive 5 that makes it 0 is negative 5. The opposite of positive 2 that makes it 0 is negative 2. Same process here. We factor. The opposite of negative 10 is 10, and the opposite of negative 1 is 1. All right, complete the square. I know this is where you're going to struggle more. I wrote out the steps. Remember what you're doing with complete the square. You are taking half of the middle term, and remember that number because that's what it's going to factor to be later on. And then you're taking that number and squaring it. And then you're adding it to the first 2 terms and taking it away from that last term. Remember, we're just sliding the negative 21 over temporarily. So we add the 9, subtract the 9. That gives me negative 30 right there. After I do that, after this is negative 30, I add 30 to both sides, which makes it positive when it goes right. Then I square root both sides. That gives me x plus 3 equals the square root of 30. And then I subtract 3, plus or minus the square root of 30. Then I subtract 3. So x is equal to negative 3 plus or minus the square root of 30. That's number 29. This is number 30 right here. I did the same process. I wrote out half of the middle term, gave me 2. Remember that number, you're going to use it right here. Okay, 2 squared is 4. I add it to, remember I add that 4 to these 2 terms and I take it away from the last one. So there's that. Then I write it down in factored form, x minus 2 squared, and then this negative 18 goes right and becomes positive 18. If you put this in your calculator will simplify it and give you 3 square roots of 2. And then I wrote it down without the radical and then pulled the 2 to the right. Because when you pull it right, remember, it changes signs as it changes sides. So my answer is 2 plus or minus 3 square roots of 2. Quadratic formula, number 31. Remember, you want to plug in the B, the A, and the C. So that's what I did, is I took my B, my A, and my C, and I plugged it in. And I did this. This is the square root of 129. So my answer, a negative 11 is a positive 11. And my answer is 11 plus or minus the square root of 129 over 2. To do number 32, same thing. I put everything in. I put my A, my B, my C in. I calculated this. This is 25 plus 60, which is 85. The square root of 85 does not simplify. It is right here. So negative 5 plus or minus the square root of 85 over 6. I hope this helps you with your test next week.